Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Super excited to have everyone here to Impro's first micro webinar. We're just going to get started in a couple of minutes, maybe a minute just to let more people in. But like I said, we're very excited to have you guys. This is our first micro webinar, and it's going to be on a great tool, 22 by 8. So if you're a participant, you might have already gone through this. And if you haven't, I'm excited for you guys to learn. Either way, I hope you take something useful out of it. Again, we're going to wait maybe 20 more seconds just to let some more people in. We do only have 30 minutes, so we're trying to compact a lot of things in a short amount of time, but that's really what we're trying to do with the 22 by 8 tool in general. But maybe to begin, as we kind of let a couple more people in, we also do have Jordan, and um, I'll do some more introductions in terms of what we do at Impro. But Jordan, maybe a fun question as we're waiting for other people to come in.
Let's hear it.
You know what I'm gonna ask you because I'm a big Halloween person. So, what is your favorite Halloween costume you've ever had? And what is the one that you're going to have this Halloween? And maybe I'll throw that into the chat. Guys, feel free to give me your best Halloween costumes. I won't go. I'll go after Jordan, but Jordan, hit me up. What do you think?
Yeah, well, okay, a good. I don't know if this is a softball question or not to start, but to be totally honest, I'm not a huge costume person. I mean, I used to dress up a lot. I think of Joel. My mother showed me photos of me dressing up as a kid, and
Oh,
it was a lot of wrestlers and horror movie icons. So I don't know what that says about me, but there was a Freddy Krueger one I can think of that I saw recently of me as a young kid. So not recently, but Joel, what about you? Let me throw this question back.
so I'm just gonna put that into the chat. So favorite one time my parents splurged on me because I was begging for a Predator costume. I love Predator as a kid. I
Good
don't know what
one.
it was, but Predator, Arnold, it just got to me. So I got kind of like a Predator suit, and I wore that probably 4 Halloweens in a row. Even though I outgrew it, I still wore it. And then for this Halloween, I think I'm gonna go Ken Barbie. It's probably gonna be an oversaturated, overrepresented Halloween costume, but kind of have to go for the time. So I think that's gonna be it. But again, if you guys want to add your Halloween costumes, go ahead. I know this is the season, but I think we can go ahead and get started. It's 3:02. So again, I just want to welcome everyone to the webinar. So one little housekeeping rule as we get in. At first, your mics are going to be turned off and your camera's going to be turned off. But if you guys want to put your camera on, please go ahead. We are going to have a Q&A at the end for about 8 minutes. So if you did want to ask a question, you can throw it into the Q&A. We'll circle back and pick those up. And again, if you guys want to ask those questions live, go ahead and turn on your mic and we can go through that route. But again, welcome to the webinar. To begin, let's do a little bit of intro on our side. So my name is Joel Pineda. I am Director of Customer Success at Impro, so I work a lot with our clients, both our buyers and our participants, making sure you guys have a successful journey, pairing you with a good coach, and overall making sure that the application itself is running smoothly. We also do have, like I said, Jordan Enns, who is our head of Q&A Insights. Jordan, give us your 2-second spiel on what you do at Impro.
Yeah, well, managing quality and a lot of our clients and participants, and I see a lot of people joining here, which is great, and some that I've worked with and continue to work with. So that's great to see. So I'm also a coach strategist as well, and work with different clients. So Impro's about 3 years old. I've been here about a year and a half, and have seen a lot of growth and shifting to especially AI changing and evolving. Staying on top of that has been a big goal as well. So that's kind of my maybe 30-second spiel for you.
Nice. Well, Jordan does do a lot of different things at Impro, so he's not covering half of the work that he actually does. But again, really excited to have Jordan as our first guest. So before we get into the agenda, like I said, just going over a couple of housekeeping rules. One, again, your mic is going to be off when you first join in. But again, if you wanted to ask a question, you can go ahead and raise your hand. We can unmute you, and then we can allow you to talk. Again, that's more for the Q&A section at the end. And also, you have the ability to always throw in a question or a comment. So both are open. If you want to add a comment, go ahead and throw that in the chat. And we do have a Q&A space if you did want to ask a particular question on anything we're going to cover today or anything that comes up through your micro coaching journey. And then the last point, again, as we always say for our participants, really it's your journey. So anything you feel free sharing, go ahead and share. I know that sometimes you have some confident information you share with your coaches. So by all means, share whatever you'd like to. And again, those are just some housekeeping rules for you guys to have. And now we'll get into the agenda really quickly, just so you know how we're going to structure this particular micro webinar. So again, we're diving into the 22x8 tool. It's a great way to really get your productivity up and get a lot of tasks done kind of in a structured, processed way. So we're going to try to do that for this webinar. 22 minutes is going to be set aside to actually talk about the tool. And then we're going to have 8 minutes to go through Q&A discussion. So again, if you guys have any questions, comments, throw them into the chat or the Q&A. We'll circle back and pick those up. And again, we'll open up the space as well for any new questions incoming. So all that being said, let's actually jump into 22x8, the tool, a couple of ways that it works. So what we wanted to do is have more of a conversation instead of just presenting you the tool itself. I, aside from being a director of customer success, I'm also actually a participant. So I've worked with coaches before. I've gone through the tool, bit of experience on how it works. But to begin, Jordan, what is the 22x8 tool? How does it work? Kind of give us the high level overview of the different ways that we can structure it and really what's the purpose behind it?
Yeah, I mean, great question to start off with. And I think, I mean, great to see we have so many people from different companies on the call as well. And many have tried the 22x8 with their coach, maybe on a limited scale. So often we'll have multiple sessions open. You might have one session of 22x8. You might try it once or twice. You know, the goal is to kind of think about completing tasks with focus and quality, and then having extra time in your day. So try not to think of the 22x8 tool as one more task to complete for Impro, but think of it as something that you can build into your day to help you complete your tasks that you have to focus on. So kind of 3 steps. It's quite straightforward, right? So you have choosing a task that takes about 30 minutes to complete. I often tell participants and fellow coaches, right, something that is maybe tempting to put off, something that is important, maybe not urgent, or maybe is urgent. But when it's urgent, you already know that you have to get it done. When it's not urgent, our brain likes to push that off and procrastinate a little bit longer. So find that task that's 30 minutes. Turn off distractions. I put my phone on do not disturb. I set my timer for 22 minutes. I hyper focus on this one task for the 22 minutes. And then when you finish, you have those 8 minutes to take a break. And what I would recommend, take 3 minutes. And we'll talk about this too, and it's in the title of the webinar. Do a little self-reflection. This can be really streamlined, which we'll look at too. But learn a skill, relax, close your eyes, listen to music, do something to give yourself that release, reflect on what you did, and then you can either jump into a new session or you can do something else in your day that you have to get done. So, I mean, something I think will hit home today, Joel, that being busy doesn't mean you're being productive. So a lot of times we're multitasking, we're putting off things, we're, kind of Parkinson's law, where something that we're given 20 minutes to complete that we could do in 5 minutes, we tend to take the full 20 minutes. We use the whole time that we have. The 22x8 is meant to hyper focus your time so you complete it. And then you can do something else with your time, whether it be personal or professional. So that's kind of the high level, the way I see it. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on that and kind of where we go.
Yeah, for sure. So I've done the 22x8 tool myself, and it's been an interesting journey for sure. But I think 2 things that you hit on are super important that at least I found the 22x8 tool really hones in on. One is this notion of multitasking. I'm sure everyone is super busy day to day. And if you work with clients like me, there's always fires you have to put out. So you have to jump from a project to an immediate situation and then jump back to the project. And then another thing comes up. And we're not really geared for multitasking as human beings. Like, we're not really good at doing 2 things in parallel. It's more like we'll subtract and add attention to 2 separate items. So I'll pay attention to this, and then I'll switch my attention, and I'll switch my attention. So we're not actually in parallel giving equal amount of attentions to both tasks. So really what I found is choosing one particular task or item to focus on is incredibly powerful because you're really honing your attention on that one particular thing that you want to get done rather than again shifting your focus from this to that. And getting into the focus part as well, what I find is there's this notion of flow state or this notion of really getting into whatever work you're currently doing. And, this could be something like athletics. So if you play any sports, you kind of have that feeling that when you're in the prime of that gameplay, you really forget you're even playing the game. It's more you're focused on the one task and you're really chasing it down. And I find that super important with work as well. Focusing in, getting in a flow state on one particular task can really, really generate productive work, especially when you start making it a habit. And we'll definitely get into habit formation with something like 22 by 8 for sure. But everything you said, Jordan, I've kind of heard before, but it was a great outline. I'm curious to learn, what does that cycle actually look like? So as you said, you're a coach here as well. So you worked with our participants really working out 22 by 8. What does that look like if you give us a use case and kind of take us through that? I think that'd be helpful too.
Yeah, and you can see here, so we do have a sample. I promise this has been agreed to be shared, and it's not a real photo. I will post in the chat as well, just so you can see the prompts if you haven't seen them in sessions with your coach. But you're again, just like we said, you're completing this task of 22 minutes. Then you're taking 3 minutes to reflect on everything that you did. So what subject did you do? How do you feel about it? What have you learned? And therefore, what action are you going to take? So some people might say, I don't want to talk about how I'm feeling. But the goal is really through the self-reflection to track what you're doing, right? So we're really bad at remembering what we do. We just like to get through the day, get through our tasks. And by tracking how we feel, what we learned, what we did differently, we can really build that routine as we do this over and over and over again. So that's the first part. The second part here too, with the break. So you can see it with this participant. So he had a meeting. Really didn't want to, not that he didn't want to prepare for it, but it was a bit overwhelming, a bit of a challenge. So it just stays on that to-do list. But he scheduled it in his calendar to get this done. He completed this. He got a takeaway. It wasn't as bad as he thought it would be. He felt great finishing it, and then he unloaded the dishwasher. So taking a break. For him, it was continuing to be productive, keep accomplishing something, and he kind of got some learning from that as well. So he's kind of two birds, one stone as he goes through this and knocking off 2 tasks as he goes through his day. You'll see others who are learning a quick skill during this time or practicing something or doing exercise. It really is how it fits you.
Mm. Yeah, great point. So it's really the first time I think you get into the 22 by 8 tool, it's hard to piece together the task, like those 3 separate structural elements. So the focus task, the break, and then the reflection piece. But what you said before, really interesting, and I think that's something we work with our participants as well, is this is not just a one-time thing, it's a bit of a cycle, right? So you have it for this particular project or particular task you want to accomplish. You can definitely translate that to the next one and the next one. And then once you start linking those different projects together, and again, one thing I always find is because I'm always super busy, I always think I don't have enough time to do this, or I think about what can I cut, and I always, lowest hanging fruit is the reflection piece. So just get it done, take a little break, get to the next thing, and then just flow. But I think the reflection piece is actually incredibly important because it allows you to be more introspective in terms of what am I actually doing? What's this process? What's good about it? What's bad about it? What can I tweak to make it a little bit better? And then how can I take that and then again cycle it into the next task or project that I'm going to do? So in the next slide, I think we break down how you can kind of take that and replicate it. But I think now that we're talking about habit formation, really taking this tool and implementing it in different projects, like you said, maybe it's a professional project, maybe it's a kind of a home project that you want to get done. It's a very versatile tool in that sense, but definitely take us through the cycle and how you can get quicker and shorter kind of prompts when you get into the 22 by 8, experience it a couple of different times.
Yeah, so you can see this progressing, right? So this participant on the app. Again, a separate session running concurrently. You don't have to do it every day, right? Like I said, I love to schedule this in blocks in your calendar so you can see it and you can choose the task that you're going to do throughout the day. And this participant here, instead of typing my subject is, right, he's just streamlining all his points and he's writing in a quick way. So like you said, Joel, instead of feeling like it's another task you have to do, you're just quickly reflecting, you're putting it in there. And the cool thing that we have by doing it with your coach, this can be self-guided as well, but doing it with your coach allows you to kind of take away your own bias and have some critical reflection on what you're doing. So you can see here, he felt frustrated because there's there, but no one's accountable. Well, what's an action that we can do to kind of look at this frustration? Because we've been doing this every day, and I saw you say frustrated 3 weeks ago as well, right? And a cool thing that we have with our AI tool is that we can see when things pop up too. So having this as a way to bring accountability and get some feedback, and a lot of individuals would like some advice too as this goes through about different things that you can try out and you can strategize with your coach. So this participant right here changed about 400 small habits over the course of a year. So that was really our goal. He went from a to-do list to moving through his tasks every day. And and I would say, imagine if you're a manager, if your team is doing this every day, taking those 400 habits, timesing it by 10, right? You can really multiply productivity. And again, just because people are busy and overwhelmed every day doesn't mean they're being as productive as they could be. So taking this, tracking being productive, I think is a great thing you can do with your coach and with your team. And that's really the goal here that we have of this reflection, looking at the thinking algorithms, looking at patterns, and then seeing how we can improve as we go through. And just some samples here. This goes on forever, this thread, but we didn't want to have this to be too long. So here's a quick snapshot.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you hit on something super important. First of all, 400 habits changed is kind of an incredible number, especially if you take into account the fact that as adults, it's kind of hard to establish a new habit that's actually going to stick. We don't have the neuroplasticity that younger children have where they can pick up languages and new things very quickly. So it does help, to have a structure. So to have something like 22 by 8 to actually get you in the habit of creating those behaviors and those mindsets. But also, like you said, having a coach in your corner, at least for me, is incredibly helpful. So having that accountability partner, having a way that you can actually see the growth and the progression of how well you've developed your habits, or even as simple as how many tasks have I accomplished this week, right? Like how many 22 by 8s have I done? And you can see the real results of that. So it really does start with forming the habit. And when we work with our participants, I think that's the first thing we try to do is the habit of getting back to the app, the habit of, connecting with your coach, trying to get a couple of things done. And habit in general can be, you can phrase it in different ways. One thing, you can think of a habit as a ritual of automated behavior. So you just go through motions like brushing your teeth or, having breakfast or tying your shoes. But when I think about a habit, I think more of a permanent solution to reoccurring issues or, permanent solutions to the tasks that you want to get done. So a bit of a mind shift or framing mind shift, I think really does help. And if we go to the next slide, one thing I do want to touch on before we wrap up, we are coming to the end of the 22 minutes, and I'm so excited to hear discussion points or questions from our participants. But really what we're talking about, again, with things like 22 by 8, these small tools that you can really inject throughout your day, 30 minutes doesn't cost a lot, but it's really the power of tiny gains, right? So incremental gains that do aggregate to a large change in behavior and habits once you do put all of them together. And I have one really quick story that I totally forgot about until this morning, but I was listening to a podcast and they were referencing this amazing journalist, James Clear. I don't know if you guys have heard of him, but he does a lot of work with habit formations and how to really break different cycles and form really good habits. And he had a great story on the British cycling team that for about 100 years hasn't won the Tour de France. They kind of don't really hit any of the podiums in the Olympics. And in 23, they brought in a new performance coach named Dave Brailsford. And his big revolutionary idea. So he didn't really, want to get the best cyclist. He didn't want to, try to get the best bikes per se. Of course, all of those things come into play. But the one thing that really revolutionized the British cycle team, at least, was the aggregation of marginal gains. So the aggregation of fixing one little thing here, one little thing there. So he did crazy things like he looked at the tires and he got lighter tires for the team. He got the best racing suits that had the least wind resistance. Like all these little tweaks. He even got doctors to come in and show the cyclists how to wash their hands so they didn't get sick, or how to sleep better so they had more energy. So these little incremental changes that you can imagine really add up to make a huge difference in your life, to the point that they won the Tour de France 3 years after he joined the organization. So the British cycling team kind of coming out of nowhere and winning the Tour de France, but also winning in the Olympics as well with different cycling teams. And one thing that I love that James Clear said is habits can either be your best ally when it comes to time, or your worst ally when it comes to time aggregation. So you can think of something like smoking, and if you compound the effects of smoking, even if you have one cigarette a day, time is against you because you're really creating a habit that shortens that time, versus a good habit that really allows you to compound the interest of those positive effects of that habit, right? So I always use something like physical health or a healthy lifestyle. You can imagine if you have a salad once a week, you won't really see the difference. But if you do see it year after year after year, or again with something like a workout routine, those tiny aggregation of marginal gains really do add up. So if I leave you with one thing, is habits is something super important, and even a small step every day towards forming a good habit does go a long way. So with that being said, I want to pause there. Last slide is just going to be how you guys can connect with your coach. Also, we're going to open it up to Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to throw them in the Q&A, raise your hand. You should be able to unmute yourself. So if you wanted to also tell a quick bit about how 22x8 has helped you in the past, or again, any questions, go ahead. One thing I will leave you with is we do have a 22x8 tool, a PDF that we're going to send you guys. So it does break down everything we talked about and goes more in depth in terms of how you can use this in your everyday lives. If you're a participant, most of you guys are, connect with your coach on this, right? You guys might already have a session open on 22x8. You might have done it before, but you haven't really visited it recently. You can create a new session with your coach. You can really leverage this starting today with anything that you'd want to. And if you did want to give us a little review, there's a little QR code that you guys can send. Automatic $20 gift card if you do leave us a positive review. So if you love what we're doing here at Impro, go ahead and give us some love. And again, we'll give you that $20 gift card. But again, open it up to any Q&A or any of our coaches. If you guys have anything to say or any questions or anything touching on 22x8, by all means, let us know.
And Joel, one thing I'll throw here in the chat as well, speaking of podcasts, I talked about scheduling tasks in your calendar rather than this to-do list that we have that never ends. And just a great clip here I'll put in the chat of how to really schedule that and change that mindset, which helps with 22x8 of kind of building these blocks in your calendar as well. So if you have 5-10 minutes and you want to watch, you can see it there in the chat.
Yeah, and I saw that we also do have Opher, who is, I'm sure most of you know him, chief scientist, but had a great post on changing 100 habits, how it advances those skills. So a great post there as well. Checking the hand feature works. Opher, did you want to say maybe anything on habit formation? I know you're the guru on the 22x8 tool itself, maybe as we have a couple of questions or chats coming in.
Just check your mute. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I got the mute off. At first, I have a question. You said that if I will give you a positive kind of statement, I will get a $20 gift card. So if I want to give a negative one, do I have to pay $20? It's
Well, we're
logic.
hoping that it's going to be a positive one. Yes.
Laurie says no. Okay, thank you, Laurie.
I would say any review, right? But yeah, and it's
I
to
will
many
tell you
places
just
this gift card. It isn't to one.
just one little thing. As you know, we talked about it in the office that busyness is not a formula to success anymore in the world.
Yeah.
It's how smart you are and how smart you are using technology like AI, and how productive you become in your mind and creative in your mind to use those technologies, right? So this is a part of being productive. In the past, we learned about productivity. We can read books about productivity. We have the book by Mihaly, and I know the book very well. The only thing is, I know the book very well. What I need to say, people share a lot of concepts around the world. Like James Clear, he has an amazing concept. I know the guy. But how many who read the book by Mihaly or by James Clear really practice every day those tools? Probably 1% out of the readers. Just for you to know that 5% of the book being bought on Kindle are opened. All the rest are not just being bought.
Right.
And I think, and this is the case here, if you could invest 3 minutes per day, every day, once a day, to become 30% better in your productivity, creativity, and adaptability level, is it worth for you to invest the 3 minutes? Yes or no? 30% means 30% better results at work, holding 30% more of the customers of the company, 30% better in customer service, 30% better in marketing. Imagine the whole company, just 30%, not 100%. 1% per day. When you do it and you double it on the amount of people, it means that also the people around you are more productive. It's no good to be in an organization when you are productive and all the rest are not productive, because then it diminishes, what you do.
Yeah.
My
Sure.
thought was, when I started to practice this thing, and I have, we have participants who practice this 10 times a day. 10 times a day means like you can become at least 100% more productive, adaptive, creative. Is it worth 3 minutes? And this is the only question that I have. Does it worth 3 minutes per day?
Yeah, for sure. Well said. And I know exactly what you're talking about, where there's always that busyness factor that always pulls us away. But it's just, again, building that habit. I saw that Amanda had her hand up. Amanda, did you want to ask a question? Chime in here with 22 by 8 or anything that was on your mind?
Yeah, I have a bit of a comment. I haven't specifically done 22.8 before, but I've used another sort of similar service in the past. Like, I just know sometimes for myself, there's like certain tasks that's like, oh, I'm really not looking forward to it. I really don't want to do it. Like, maybe it wouldn't take that long if I did it, but it's just like, oh, I hate it. I don't want it. But like sometimes I have trouble like initiating it myself. And I found this other service is called FocusMate. And what it actually does is you pick a meeting length, like 30 minutes, an hour, whatever, and it matches you up with someone else in the world that wants to work at the same time, the same amount of time. And you just do like a quick little video check and it's like, hey, Amanda, I'm going to work on this thing for work. And they're like, hi, I'm John. I'm going to like fix my car. And then you go on mute and then you just work for the amount of time, the 30 minutes or the 1 hour or whatever it is. And then at the end, you're like, oh, how did that go for you? Sort of thing. Just so it's like, okay, like just get like the motivation to like, okay, we're both focusing on a thing together. We're both getting it done. It's just like a little help to have the extra motivation, like the extra focus that might be sometimes required on top of this whole 22.8, like booking the time to do the focus work on it.
Yeah,
I know the tool very well, but it's being used mostly not as a habit from time to time. What we are doing here is creating habits. I suggest, Amanda, try to do the 22 by 8, 2-3 times per day, 3 minutes every time. Do it for 90 minutes and then call me. It's totally different, because I know there are a lot of, beautiful tools, and I know that tool that you're talking about. It's great, but it does not create a habit. It gives an opportunity.
Mm-hmm. And Amanda, I love that because it's that accountability factor, right? It's having someone that you can kind of make sure is doing the work. And that's what our coaches really are there for, is making sure that you're on the right track. Two little add-ons on that I want to give before we close out. with habit formation, the things that help me, one is path of least resistance. So if you can make that habit easy to actually do, like Opher said, it's one thing to want to do the habit. It's another to actually start the habit and actually build the foundations for it actually growing. So path of least resistance, make it so obvious and make it so easy for yourself that you kind of just slip into the habit, right? So that's one thing. And pair it if you can, add it to another habit. So before and after another habit, you kind of have a chain of habits. So for example, I wanted to do more reading, and I just couldn't find time to get even a chapter in at any point in the day. So what I did was I put the habit of brushing my teeth and reading right after. So I would always condition myself that, okay, as soon as you're done brushing your teeth for the night, the next thing you're going to do is you're not going to check your phone. You're just going to sit down. You're going to read for 30 minutes or finish this chapter. And I just kept doing that. Toothbrush chapter, toothbrush chapter. And that little difference, I got a couple of books done within, a couple of months, just having that habit formation. So again, anything really that works for you guys, let us know. Share that feedback with other participants. Again, we're a bit of a community here, all trying to develop our skills and trying to perform at the next level. That being said, we are at the top. Like I promised you, this was going to be a 22x8 webinar. So I'm super glad we got those questions in and we got your context. We will have more in the series. We're just planning out when we're going to do that. So keep a lookout. If you enjoyed it, join our next workshop in series. And we hope to see you guys at the next one. Again, scan that code and we're going to send you that PDF after the webinar. In closing, thank you guys. We really appreciate you joining and we'll see you back in the app.